Welcome back, everybody, to Ravenstar's Witching Hour. I'm Solaris BlueRaven, and I'm here with my special guest, Betsey Lewis. And Betsey, you were talking about orbs dropping from the sky and all sorts of interesting activity.
Yes. Well, it actually happened on October 21st, 1989 in the Mojave Desert. And they saw at first 9 glowing objects over this mountain. And then, of course, like I said, there were all these orbs falling from the sky, and pretty soon they were surrounded. They jumped in their camper at the back of it, and they just prayed. They were held hostage close to 12 hours. They said that it was a psychological type torment. They could read their minds. They had telepathic power, and they were putting things in their heads, and it was just incredible. It was just the most horrifying experience they ever had. But what's interesting is that the next year they decided to have regressive hypnosis, and what they revealed is probably even more incredible than what they endured. It said that these beings have been here for all time, that they exist spiritually, then become physical. They were from other planets, but they are more spiritual now. And they have power and a force. It says they're here to deliver a message to the world that needs to be as one. And if there's war or massive destruction, they will intervene. And it's kind of interesting that also that they want to make contact with Earth, that they told Dawn, that was the wife, and Steve, that they are imperfect specimens. That's what the human race is. And they said there are 5 galaxies. Theirs is the next closest. And also they said that they're going to make communication with us. And when asked, when are they going to do it, they said, sometime in your children's lifetime. So if that happened in 1989, I would think that they're going to be making communication with us any time now.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. And does it sound like a military exercise, or would you say this is more extraterrestrial? Yeah.
There was 3 different types of beings, kind of the gray, and then some kind of like machine type creature. And then when Dawn was so frightened and praying, there was an angel, a woman, a beautiful woman that came to her and told her not to be frightened, which is kind of interesting. All these different beings, were they creating that? Was it some kind of hallucination or mind control?
Yeah.
But the interesting part is that they said that there is one supreme being that controls all of them. He sends them here on missions. They're not here on their own accord, they said. And when they asked, are they like God, or is it like God? And they said, that's all they know is the one supreme, they call him, which I would think is God. But they're here following orders, and, they have no opinion about us. They're just following orders. So that's really interesting. And it says, and this really gave me the chills when I read this part. It says, you talked about the universe. This is the questioner asking Dawn. He says, you talked about the universe and matters earlier. You said our universe ends where theirs begins. And Dawn answered, our universe ends when it matters, let me read that again. Our universe ends when its matter stops mattering to us and starts mattering to them.
Wow, that's interesting.
Isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. And it does almost sound like they were amplifying in visual the emotional content of the person under duress. Like when she was praying, so they show an angel. It's almost like they are working some kind of a mind control or a remote influence. Not even remote, because they were right there. That's really, really interesting.
Oh, a great story.
Yeah, without a doubt. I bet they had a lot of trauma after that.
Well, it's kind of interesting. They did. And their son talked about, he had one of these little transformers before they went on the trip. He pointed, he was saying something about spaceman, that he had seen these things they knew that his son was having some kind of interaction with the aliens already, that they had had things. And Steve talked about having experiences as a young child. So many people that have been abducted since they were children. And it seems to go through the whole family.
Right. Yeah, I've seen that too. It seems like it's hereditary.
It is.
Yeah, and it goes back like a long time.
Yeah.
With ancestors. So who knows? I mean, yeah, can you imagine looking at old records of our ancestors that have been abducted or contactees that couldn't talk about it?
Right. Oh, sure.
Yeah, it'd be fascinating. I would love to explore that, and it's unfortunate I don't think we have any records. Usually most families don't of that sort of thing. But boy, that's a story unto itself, I'm sure. It is. And so you've done a lot of investigations insofar as contactees and abductees go. And what's the similar thread in the fabric of all of these abductions or experiences that you would say that's a pattern? Anything you've noticed that stands out?
Well, the other one that I like is from called The Watchers by Raymond Fowler, about Betty, Andreas, and Luca and her husband. Even their children were abducted. But what was really strange, it was like the aliens, which were the Greys in her case, they seemed to be downloading her memories. And she was taken to a place which was like kind of the Wizard of Oz. There was this yellow brick road and just the things that they put her through. And she felt that they were angels, but there was also other beings that she called the elders, and they claimed that they watch everything we do, and everything that we say and do is recorded. And I guess it's like the Akashic records. That everything that we do is imprinted on space and time. So yeah, they said that they watch us, and it said also they told her that animals, have a higher place in the cosmos than most of us understand. And those who harm animals, it's totally wrong. They're doing, because animals are sacred too. They're here for a purpose, and there's no reason to abuse them or harm them.
I agree. Yeah, they're pure of heart. They're like pure consciousness, pure energy, pure soul. Are. Yeah. There's no contamination with man-made programming, really.
I've always wondered about animals and souls. I know there are some people that say that animals don't have souls, but I disagree totally, because I've had so many animals through the years, and an animal has emotions, an animal thinks, and sometimes very intelligent.
Oh, absolutely.
And they feel pain. Like we do. They're so much like us. They may not have souls like us, but I do believe they're on an evolutionary path, just like we are.
Oh, I totally agree. Also, even if you look at the dolphins and the whales, I mean, they call them the ancient record keepers for a reason. If you go way back with celestial teachings and even Atlanteans, I mean, they're very sacred, and it's shameful to watch how they butcher them. I'm just like appalled by some of the things that are done to these animals. It's just, they're not animals, but, it's just horrible. Yeah, when I think about all that, it's just...
Well, what's going on in Japan?
Right.
We've seen how they've rounded them up in these coves and just slaughter them.
That's horrific.
Oh, it is. It's unconscionable.
Yeah, it's just really shameful for them to do that. There's no excuse for that. And that's what I mean. It's all about greed. It's all about money. It's never about the bigger picture, Yeah, it's just infuriating. And I don't know what it's going to take for those people or anybody to wake up and stop doing that. And just stop. I don't know what it's going to take.
The way we've overfished the oceans and everything else, we're going to run out of fish. Scientists are saying by 2050, the oceans are going to be dead, and they're dying. Our coral reefs are dying. They're bleaching out. They're dying. We've seen lately starfish. Right. There's something killing all the starfish on the West Coast. And they don't know what's causing that. It may be radiation. Who knows? I think about that too. I'm sure.
Well, there were some theories about that also, because it's like it's cooking them whatever it is, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I haven't done a whole lot of research on that, but it was very interesting when I saw that. And it's, when you take a good look at, our oceans are dying. I mean, I knew that when I was living on Maui, and this was way before anything like Fukushima, but I used to talk to a lot of divers out there. I'm not a diver, but, they would tell me that the salt water doesn't even taste like salt water anymore, and it's like it's losing its potency. In other words, it's dying. It's right. Something's wrong. It's sick. And I believe that. I really do. But I also think we can cure it. But we have to get all this stuff taken care of now. I mean, you can't let a disease go too far. And right now I look at the planet like it's being infected, and we need to heal it, in order to maintain or sustain anything on this world. But, they're genetically modifying everything.
Oh, they are. Everything. And you think about it, there's 7 billion of us on this planet. There's just too many people on this planet, and we're using up all the natural resources. What are we going to do?
Exactly.
We can't continue this way. We've got to do something.
I agree.
And what we're doing right now, and I'm talking about the corporations and all, and we're just not doing it right. That's for sure.
Right. And what's your take on the depopulation insofar as, what do you think do you think there is an agenda insofar as terraforming this planet and just taking out a majority of people?
Oh, I think so. I think so. And I think that these bunkers that they've been building all over the United States, they're getting ready for something. They're ready to jump in their little bunkers and while we're out here. But I think I'd rather be on top than in a bunker and buried.
Yeah.
Like a tomb.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's being buried alive, even though they think they're really secure. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure, with our Black Space program, that they can probably go any place off world if they really wanted to. Mm-hmm. And I really do believe in the breakaway society. I believe that there are, I don't want to call them elite. I just believe that there are a lot of people with a lot of money who have managed to get technology access to a point where they can actually get off the planet. So, that's my impression.
And when you were talking about black ops, I think we've been to the moon. We only see one side of what's going on with NASA. Mm-hmm. I think, there's things going on Mars, and I think there have been great civilizations on Mars, and there are things there that they have covered up. I had a dream. I was at JPL. This was in the 80s. I had that dream, and I saw what they were seeing on this great, huge screen. They were all excited about this great big 3-sided pyramid structure. There was one called the ramp, and one that looked like a ram's horns on there. And they know that there was a civilization there, and maybe there still is something there. I don't know. You've probably seen those tubes that look like giant.
I have.
Gas tubes. I kind of wonder if they're like sandworms from the movie Dune.
That's exactly what I saw when I looked at those. Yeah. I did. Yeah. It's highly possible, without a doubt. Yeah, I'm a firm believer that other people have talked about civilizations, ancient civilizations on Mars, and of course here. So, every planet, in my opinion, can sustain some form of life. Whether we can observe it or not is basically man and the dimensional frequency. And once again, we're talking about vibration, so if it's vibrating at another frequency, we're not going to be able to see it. Right. So that's another thing that people aren't taking into consideration when they're terraforming or they're looking at other planets. Oh, well, we can't see any life. Well, what are you looking at? What frequency?
Right.
It's really what I'm asking. So it's really interesting when you think about it. Now, I know you've talked in the past about the green glass, and I'm really interested in hearing more about that.
Well, it's really interesting. It's found all over the world, and most of the major deserts it's been found. There are no volcanoes around to explain it. There are no meteors haven't been found in the area, like a huge meteor could have caused it to melt the sand. But what's interesting, in 1945, they started doing all these nuclear explosions in New Mexico, and they found out that from that, they created green glass. And this green glass that's found all over the deserts has to be ancient. They have found it, in several deep layers of the earth. So somebody had nuclear capabilities way back, eons ago.
Right, and this isn't anything like moldavite or anything like that, right?
No. Okay. And there's fulgurites, which is caused by lightning. They're dark and kind of twisted. But these are sheets of green glass that are found.
That's
Yeah,
really interesting. Where are these sheets now? I mean, is there a place where you can go to actually locate them, or?
good question. I know Brad Steiger wrote about it in one of his books, and I'm not sure which one it is, but yeah, I would like to see it too.
Yeah, I was thinking, and I wonder if it has any healing properties or things like that.
Yeah, I wonder that too.
So basically, it's out of sight, out of mind.
Right. They don't want us to know about that either.
It's amazing what they don't want. It's kind of funny because they're not the caretakers of this world, and they don't have any authority over us. They may think they do, but they don't. So they really aren't. They're kind of really way out of line, if you ask me, as far as what they're doing. So it's kind of like the kids in the room that have gotten away with way too much.
Right,
Without a
right.
doubt. And I know you've also talked about markers at the Mojave. Were there some kind of markers that were images or something like that, or glyphs, geoglyphs?
Oh, yeah, right. A giant geoglyphs, right, like Nazca Plains in Peru. These are giants. They can only be seen from air.
Mm-hmm.
And one is called the Twins, which looks like an alien being.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah,
That's
there
wild.
are those glyphs. There are also petroglyphs around there. And I've found some interesting petroglyphs on the Idaho-Nevada border. I had a friend that was totally into petroglyphs and knew where to find all these ancient ones. And it's a lava flow. And you go back and you can't see them until you get really deep in there. Of course, there's rattlesnakes. You've got to watch out for those. But there are some interesting things that there's one that it looks like they carved out part of the rock to make it look like a face. And then they carved in the headdress for it in the eye. There's another one that the way they made the rocks, it looks like a snake. It looks like a serpent. And all over the world, ancient people actually, revered this serpent. So I kind of wonder if they weren't serpent worshippers.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting. And yeah, just checking in here for a second. I think you sound fine, and I sound fine. I'm getting some feedback insofar as people are saying there's a little bit of a delay or a glitch. I'm not certain if that's true or not. I'm going to do a check.
Okay.
But I don't think so. Anyways, keep going.
Okay.
But let's talk a little bit about your website. I just want to be clear on the website itself and also your radio show. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Well, my website is betseylewis.com, and Betsey is spelled a little bit different. It's Betsey. Lewis is Lewis.com. And I have my Earth News One blog on there. Every day I post everything that's going on, if any kind of solar events, earthquakes, all these strange booms that are going on, UFO reports we've had. There's just been tons of UFO reports lately. These orange and red orbs that people are seeing in the sky. Mm-hmm. So I think there's something that the aliens are trying to tell us.
Wow. And is that being reported to your website?
Well, I've had people tell me about some of the things that they've had, but Peter Davenport in Seattle has his website, and he has all these people calling in and reporting. So yeah, there's just been tons of those reports all over the country.
Well,
and around the world too.
And where are the hot spots insofar as the UFO activity is?
Well, lately it's been over, South Carolina. There's been quite a few in Seattle, California.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, and of course, the thing is, there's so much going on out there with these Chinese lanterns. People are saying, well, maybe that's the orbs, but when you start seeing them flying in formation, you know that it's not Chinese lanterns.
Exactly.
I have a video posted on my Earth News One. If they just go to my website and click on that, they'll see this video that's just amazing. I don't even remember where it was, but you can see these orbs coming together, and then they form a triangle, and then they start changing. They were like morphing and doing all kinds of things. So they're kind of like this dance. It's almost like they were trying to spell something out. It's probably one of the most clear and
Wow.
amazing videos I've ever seen of UFOs.
And does that strike you as something that's off-world, or is it something that you think might be from our underground Black Ops program?
I think that our government probably has 3D holographic capabilities, and I do think that that's alien, though.
Yeah.
I do.
Okay.
Celestial.
Yeah, I know there's a mix. Yeah, there seems to be a mix. I do know that there's a lot of the man-made technology floating about.
Right.
So that's why I always have to ask, and I'm sure that you're sensitive enough to see and know beyond what they're trying to create. That's for darn sure. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that we'll just have to trust our instincts on what's real and what isn't out there.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's what it's going to really be boiling down to, is just going with your inner guidance, because everything else is just going to be a fiasco, without a doubt. But I did want to ask you a little bit about your book, the other book, too, The Angels, Aliens, and Prophecy 2. And, how did you come across that title insofar as the Angel Alien Agenda? And what does that actually represent to you?
Well, there's just so many different stories and actually texts that are found, ancient texts that tell of aliens, or what sounds like aliens, in the ancient Indian texts that are found. And it describes what sounds like some kind of vehicles and wars going on in the sky. In the Bible, there's Ezekiel that describes strange beings with, they had a wheel within a wheel. The descriptions are just incredible. Mm-hmm. But I think throughout the history of the earth, there has been many angels that are aliens that appear as angels. I do believe in angels, mm-hmm. but I think that many times that we've had these beings that have 3D technology too, and create what we believe in, like Fatima, Portugal in 1917, when the 3 children encountered what they believed was the Virgin Mary.
Right.
And she always appeared on the 13th of the month for 6 months, from May to October of 1917. She would sometimes come in on an orb, which is kind of interesting. She would glide in from the east, and she would disappear in the east. There would be booms whenever she would appear, and people didn't actually see her, but she would usually come and hover over a tree, an oak tree, and the children could see her, of course, but they could see the tree swaying, and they could hear the booms whenever she came in. There would be lights, incredible lights going on, and of course the last event where she appeared was October 13th, and that's when people saw the sun fall from the sky. There were at least 80 to 100,000 people gathered that day in Fatima to see this, and it had been raining all day, and she promised that she would show up. She always showed up at solar noon, and the children saw her, of course, but what the people saw was the sun falling from the sky. The rain stopped, and then it seemed to come down from the sky. It started twirling around. It started rotating. They said it resembled a plate of silver. It made strange and abrupt movements. It was outside the cosmic laws. It had a sharp edge. They said it had gleamed like a dull plate of silver. Now, that doesn't sound like the sun, does it?
Not at all.
No.
And
what's really strange is that finally it just went back up into the sky, and the people that had been standing in mud and soaked that day, they were totally dry, as if it never happened. But only people within a 15-mile radius of Fatima saw this event. Nobody in the world. I mean, there wasn't any astronomer that saw anything unusual about the sun that day. So I believe it was a UFO.
Right.
A mothership, of course.
That's really interesting. And also, you made a good point insofar as this planet being almost a holographic design, which would indicate why things shift the way they do insofar as observation. and the way people perceive energy and the way it's transmitted. So, yeah, that's really interesting. So did you say that it appeared to certain people and didn't appear to others?
You mean the UFO or
yes.
the vision of the...
Well, both, actually.
Okay. No, people couldn't see the lady, only the children. They would seem to be in a sort of hypnotic ecstasy when she appeared. And the people couldn't see her, but like I said, they would hear the noises. They would see the brilliant lights that she created. They would see like this orb coming in. And she would always appear at solar noon, which is kind of interesting. I don't know why she had that timetable, but she did. And, of course, the big event was October 13th. And why the 13th of the month? You know, I don't know. She was trying to say there's going to be a solar event someday in our future, which I kind of think that it was a warning about a solar event.
Have you actually seen or had a vision of any type of solar activities coming our way?
I've felt for a long time that there's going to be a solar event. And what's really interesting is the sun has been doing some strange things. They thought it was going to be real active at the first of the year. And they said it was going to do a magnetic flip, which it did. And it's been getting really active now. So we're going into a real active phase again. For a long time, it was flatlining.
Right.
They just didn't understand that what's going on. But I've noticed the correlation between our planet, earthquakes, and solar events. Anytime we get the CME fired at us from the sun, a coronal mass ejection, that causes geomagnetic storms on the Earth, and we get the aurora borealis. And what's really interesting is Lucia was one of the children from Fatima, and she said that Jesus came to her in 1927. And he told her that she should tell what was told by the Lady of Fatima and about the 5 scourges that would befall humanity. And he also told her that you'll be shown a sign in the sky when the night is illuminated by an unknown light. And on it was on January 25th, 1938, all of Europe and part of North America witnessed the most intense display of the aurora borealis, the northern lights. And it was probably one of the largest solar flares ever recorded at that time. And the sky glowed red, green, and blue all over Europe. In fact, in England, they thought there were fires in London because the sky was so red. We've never seen that, which is kind of interesting. So, yeah.
That would be incredible to observe, without a doubt.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Oh, yeah, but I think you're right. I think we're heading for some interesting times. I mean, even more so than what we're witnessing right now, insofar as what the Earth, I think the Earth has a lot up her sleeve. So, it'll be interesting to see.
I think the weather is going to get far worse. I mean, we're just seeing the tip of it, you know, the flip-flop weather, the temperatures, and now, you know, with all that snow in the east and what's been going on there, now it's going to start melting. It's going to go up to 50 degrees or more.
Right.
And now they're going to have huge flooding. It's crazy. And look what's happening in England right now. I don't know if you've been watching.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Flooding over there.
Yeah.
And, of course, with Sochi, with the Olympics, look what's happening there. 70 degrees. It's outrageous. It's like everything is just, you know, topsy-turvy, and like our planet is wobbling.
Right. Well, that does make sense insofar as that would explain the magnetic poles shifting, if that's the case, because then that would explain why the climates are changing. Things are a little bit more extreme. That's really interesting to watch all this kind of transform right before our eyes. What I'd like to see through this transition is more positive instead of negative, you know, and I think that's the thing when you're talking about ceremony, which comes to mind again, is really just focusing on what we can do to make it better and an easier transition. And, yeah, I mean, that would be the best thing to do with all this. This is just so insane, some of the stuff that's happening across the globe. But, you know, we know that the military is known to stake power spots, and it sounds like they have staked many powerful anomaly areas, which are now kind of archived in their undergrounds, if you ask me. So what is your impression of that?
You're talking about underground?
Well, I'm talking about power spots across the globe which have been staked by military, and kind of I see a lot of artifacts and things being taken, by these covert areas in these black budget areas. What's your impression of that, if any?
Are you talking about like energy vortexes, like what's going on in Sedona and all
Some of those, and also artifacts, ancient artifacts, and things that really, like the Vatican, that basically keeps a lot of ancient artifact data.
Oh, I think they have so much stored in there. If we could just get in there, we would have a ball in there.
I know. I'd be able to read all of it, I bet. And so would you. Decode everything. That's the funny thing. I don't believe they know what they have in their hands, They just kind of hoard and confiscate, but they don't understand the high alchemical aspect of a lot of what they have taken.
And even the Smithsonian, they have a basement full of stuff that they won't reveal to the public. It's sad that we just can't see any of that. We're not privy to it.
And is that owned by private investors?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think the Smithsonian is. No.
I keep thinking that there are certain artifacts and certain archaeological artifacts that have been actually purchased by private investors. Now, I can't remember, one of my someone I interviewed had mentioned that before, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's not going on.
There's stories of Egyptian writing that's been found in the Colorado area and through the canyons. There's just evidence that, there have been all kinds of people and like I said, giants. We're talking about giants, the redheaded and blonde giants that existed here. So there's so much to our world that is just amazing that we just haven't found out about, about the pyramids. I think they're much older than we've been told about the pyramids. And
very much so. And those giants, insofar as their skeletons go, now those have kind of vanished, right?
The giants?
Right.
Yeah. So, I think the last one to exist, I was looking at a photograph of it. I think it was 1948. He only lived 22 years, but he was close to 9 feet. And, because he was just kind of a freak of nature, some kind of thyroid problem that he grew so big. But and it was so hard on his heart being that big.
Right.
But no, giants just don't exist now.
It's interesting. Well, obviously there are skeletons somewhere, that joke of all the skeletons in the closet, right? Well, I'd like to know where that closet is, wouldn't you?
I would. Let's open that closet.
Where all the secrets are. But, you take a good look at some of these basketball players today, and they're really tall. I mean, not giants, but obviously, so it's really not that much of a stretch when you think about other, bigger people occupying the earth at one point.
I was listening to Richard Dewhurst that wrote a book about the giants. He's got a new book out. And he was on Coast to Coast. And I think George Norrie asked him if maybe these giants could be the Bigfoot now. And he said, well, maybe. And I thought, no, that's totally different. They're not related. I don't know where he got that, but I don't think so. I think Bigfoot and the giants that walk this earth were totally different species.
I agree. Well, it seems like there's a lot of speculation these days, and unfortunately it seems like everybody's just kind of coming out with a Scooby-Doo hypothesis, unfortunately, and that doesn't fly with me very well. I try to break things down. But yeah, it's pretty interesting, some of the information. Now, you've gone through a lot of, I guess, have you done past life regression with yourself?
I have, somewhat. I remember a past life in the West. And the Old West, I remember just bits and pieces of I think, ancient Egypt. And I remember being like a priestess. And I have glimpses of that. And something about the Crusades. Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. And how long ago did you have that done?
That was done some time ago.
Yeah.
And I've just done some meditation, where I just pick up these things. I see these visions of a past life. And I think I knew Mark Twain. And that's kind of interesting because anytime I pick up a book and read about him, I start crying. and I don't know why.
Well, that's really interesting.
Yeah, and I just know certain things about him and how he was interested in science and Tesla, and he believed in, he was into the paranormal too. He wrote a book called Number 44, The Mysterious Stranger, and it's almost like a time traveler story. Not a lot of people know about that book.
Well, I haven't heard that one either.
Yeah.
That sounds very interesting.
It's kind of a dark novel. I don't know what he was thinking when he wrote it, but it is kind of like time travel.
Well, it's like the soul remembers. I'm a firm believer in that also, that we recognize each other at the soul level, I think, spiritually speaking. And then unfortunately these days everybody gets distracted. But all in all, I mean, you can kind of tell certain beings from others, in my opinion, as I've come across in my own observation and experience on this world. But I thought that was really interesting. Now, do you actually do hypnosis? You do also, right? For others?
I have.
Yeah.
I've hypnotized a couple of people. I don't do it all the time, but
okay. Yeah. So do you actually work with people who have been abducted or contactees?
No, but I'd like to. I'd love to.
Yeah, I was going to say that would probably be very interesting for you, coming with your research background.
I had a lady that wanted me to do it, but she had to go to Arizona, and we never got together. So, but I would. If there's anybody out there that would like to be regressed, contact.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And of course, that's on your website. That's how they would get a hold of you. Okay.
Right.
Excellent.
Right. Yeah.
And you're also on Facebook.
I am.
That's right.
I am. Yeah.
Where I can track you and watch you. It's funny when I was watching these earthquakes and all this information you're putting out there, and it's really a lot of activity going on when you look at it, when you keep track of that.
Yeah, there's just been a massive amount of earthquakes lately. 6, 7 point, and I have this feeling, I've had this feeling for over a year now about Indonesia. And I've got a little friend that's been emailing me about the volcanoes going off there, and I just feel there's going to be a massive, massive earthquake there again. And I just pray for the people there. I think right now people that are living along coastal areas, they're going to get inundation from, storms and, hurricanes and winds and, tsunamis, and I think Japan too. I worry about Japan, what's going on there. I think they're going to see more earthquakes too.
That's the last thing they need right now.
I know. Yeah, exactly.
Considering what's happening with that Fukushima, and of course it's been underplayed, so, I guess nobody cares until everything becomes really radioactive, huh?
It's like they're all in denial, and they won't let anybody over there to help them.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not sure about that because I know they've had offers. Quite a few countries have offered assistance, and they just want to just kind of keep it under the carpet, I guess.
I guess so too. I've heard of people moving out of Japan just to get out of there. They know what's going on there. It's so bad.
Yeah, see, that's another thing. I think it's being underplayed insofar as really, how bad it really is. And of course, I understand that part of it is heading towards, or some of the radiation debris is heading towards, over towards the Hawaiian Islands. And I don't know how much of that is accurate or not. But yeah, it's just, it's really weird to kind of underplay anything that critical, in my opinion. You want to make sure you cover all your bases and do the observations and take the measurements. I don't think they're even really serious about that. So it's really unfortunate.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
We've got to wake up. I just hope it's not going to be a horrific awakening for us,
Well, that's what I see. I see a kind of a strange, abrupt awakening, It's kind of like being in the middle of the operating room on the table while they're operating on you. That's where people are at right now. They're kind of under, they're kind of just in this mass hypnosis space. And part of that is, I'm wondering how much of that is actually based on psychotronics and covert mind control. And as funny as some people might think that is, it's not, because I know the technology, it can be deployed very discreetly. And people are acting weird. Quite a few. Well,
these shootings that have been going on, in theaters and schools and everything. These kids are being mind controlled.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I noticed that the divisions, even law enforcement, there are divisions where they're acting more and more aggressive. They're losing their compassion. They're losing their humanity. And they're becoming more like, they're federalized for one, but there's something going on where they're a lot more aggressive than they need to be. And they're changing. The dynamic of the way people behave and encounter each other from day to day has changed to more negative. And that is not good. When you start seeing that, when you start seeing the lack of compassion for your fellow man and the aggression, there's something really, really wrong,
I wish we could just get away from all these electronics. The internet is wonderful, and that's true. But TV, look how dark TV is anymore. You don't watch it, but all these shows are just dark. And kids watching this, it's the occult. And, there's the good occult and there's bad, but this is all negative and a lot of killing and blood and it's that, and they think it's
Well, it's mainstream's version too, and unfortunately, the people that are writing those scripts are not real mystics. They're taking information and they're perverting it and distorting it so that they can exploit it, and then they give it to the masses, spoon feed it to them, and then it gives a bad name to people who are into occult in general. And you and I both know. I mean, I've been on the path of mysticism for a very long time, and that's just not the way it works. I mean, sure, you can do good or bad with whatever you have, and alchemy works the same way. But what I'm seeing is, bad role models without a doubt. You don't want to promote negative behavior and disrespectful behavior, and that's what mainstream media does. And I hate to say it, but it's true, and that's why I turned off television a long time ago. I'm not going to feed into the illusion.
Yeah, that's right. And I believe those waves are coming right over and controlling our minds. And we're so in tune with electronics now, we just can't get away from it. We're addicted.
Right.
You see people texting. I mean, people are walking off into the subways, they don't even know where they're going,
Right. Well, we're electrical too, and that's another thing. And you know as well as I do how entity parasites can attach onto your electrical field. And then there's the psychotronic attachments and things like that they can do. So, it goes to so many different levels. But, I think we're being calibrated and conditioned for the transhumanism agenda. And I've said that before. But that's what it certainly seems that way to me. And you're right. People just don't pay attention anymore. It's all about what these little gadgets. But then they forget that they have these beautiful minds, these supercomputer minds with psychic vision that can do anything beyond what a stupid little computer can do.
Right.
It's just like, I'm sorry, but computers are for your convenience. They're little gadgets that you use to have a better life, an easier life on some level. You like a little library access. But, when push comes to shove, you better know how to use your brain. And I don't think a lot of people do.
No, they don't. No common sense anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you and I both grew up in the environment, too, where it was blue skies and in a very natural environment growing up. And that's gone. We'll never see that again, not in our lifetime.
Kids don't go out and play. I was out in nature. My parents they'd say, go play. We were climbing hills and mountains and going into caves and riding horses. And we were around nature all the time. Skiing or skating, ice skating, swimming, the kids are just, they're stuck to their electronics now and they don't understand nature, and everything has a consciousness out there. And it's too bad that, they're not being taught what's out there, that nature is so important, that nature teaches everything, and we need to trust nature again and go back to nature, especially with all these earth changes. So we're warned.
I agree, and I think that we'll be. Yeah, I agree, Betsy, and I think we'll be forced to do so. I think that we'll have enough changes to a point where the system will be taken down, and we'll have to reconstruct and rebuild. I mean, that wouldn't be necessarily a bad thing, honestly. I mean, if you know how to survive and you know how to work with the land, you can get through it. Anything you can get through anything through consciousness and through our higher selves. But there is a question. There's this one question from Steve. He's actually a producer over here at the station, but he did have a question from earlier on. Ask what happens to atheists when they die, and I guess he was referring to what we were talking about earlier, if you have any impression of that.
They're in for a big shock.
You think?
Oh, yeah. They are. They'll still have their mindset for a while, but they'll learn after a while that, there's more to what's there. Of course they will. And that's fine. They can believe what they want to believe.
Right.
That's fine. But they will be in for a shock when they get on the other side. Mm-hmm. And they're met with their loved ones and angels or higher beings. They angels and celestial beings, those that are vibrating on a higher level, are there to help to assist us on the other side. But I believe that, and I believe there is a God consciousness, an energy gestalt that created this and is still growing. I mean, our universe is expanding and expanding. And, there's no beginning, there's no end. It's just going to keep expanding. And we're evolving with it. We're here on this planet. And like I said, there's other planets that have higher vibrations, that have no wars, where people get along. But we're here to learn lessons, and we chose that to be here.
Yeah, that's quite the lesson, let me tell you.
Yes, it is.
Good transition to another realm, without a doubt. But yeah, I think it's really just riding those waves of consciousness, and yeah. But I think at this point in the continuum, it's really kind of like it's time for everybody to get with the program, if you ask me. And I don't know about you, but I don't like dealing with this density anymore, and I'm tired of the evil in this world, and it just needs to stop. I can't even. I can't just sit there and observe it with complacency. I've got to say, no, this is wrong. And I think a lot of people need to stand up and see the evil and stand up and say, this is not okay. And I don't know if that's really happening yet, but then once again, we talked about the awakening process, and perhaps that will happen where people will say, that's it. But to what degree? I mean, you have to ask yourself, what's it going to take for people to really shift? What's it going to take? I mean, how much more, well, first of all, how much more can the earth take, with all this transitioning? And then mankind is like, what's it going to take? I mean, come on, guys. So it's very interesting for me.
It is.
To see that happening, without a doubt. But I did want to, well, gosh, I can't believe we're getting ready to wrap this up soon enough. But I do want to thank you again for being on tonight, Betsey. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show.
No, it's been great being on your show. You have a fun show.
Oh, thank you. You're so easy to talk to, and it's just, there's so much. You have so much knowledge, and there's so many different areas I can go with you. And I know we kind of went all over the map tonight, but I wanted to kind of just go into different realms and ask a lot of different questions. And yeah, it's been really awesome. But yeah, and I didn't get a chance to ask you if you've actually had any or did any research near any of the underground bases areas or close to Area 51 or anything like that. Did you ever get close?
I did. Well, I went out to Area 51. It was in 2012 that I was invited to speak at a UFO conference in Alamo, which is just about 40 miles from Area 51. And we drove over there, and it was cold, it was windy, and we stood out there and we saw the people that parole they just check on the area in their little jeeps out there to keep you from going any further. But we didn't see any UFOs or anything. But I've heard stories that there's just all kinds of strange things that go on out there. And I heard that the highway was closed down one night because of something that maybe had gotten away out of Area 51. I don't know.
Well, I've heard
that's just a story. I don't know if it's true or not.
That sounds like that movie. Oh, I can't remember it now. Was it something 8? Steven Spielberg movie. Oh, I can't remember it now. But anyways, that's what it reminded me of because they had some kind of a creature. But anyways, when I think about it, they did relocate a lot of that. Supposedly, they relocated some of their technology to other areas outside of Area 51 or S4 or whatever. Right. So, I mean, I'm sure, when push comes to shove, when you really look at the whole scenario, it's really about these black budget programs that they have access to, and they've been, obviously doing reverse engineering on so many different levels. And, I really think it's kind of like we're onto everything already. We already know what's happening. So I think the best thing they could possibly do is just come forward with everything and just say, okay, let's just confirm it. But I don't think that'll ever happen. But, it's kind of like, why do they have to lie when we already know the truth,
I think more and more things are going to be revealed. They can't stop the truth.
No, not at all.
Not forever. And I know they want to, but I think eventually these things are going to come out. And, even the Catholic Church has hinted about aliens. They've made several remarks, some of their astronomers have in the last few years. So, maybe they're getting us ready for... Yeah,
the next one will be Jesus was an alien, too.
Right.
I'm telling you, well, yeah, it's just real interesting. It's almost like whatever works for mainstream is where they're going to be. Whatever the buzz is what they want to start, coming forward with information.
Right.
It's just wild. But you mentioned something I've heard you mention before about aquifers in Nevada, and I'm curious because they say there's a drought going on, but yet we have these incredibly deep aquifers with natural resources. What is your take on that?
Well, that's part of all that cavern
Mm-hmm.
areas too, that there's supposed to be major aquifers, like you said, deep aquifers. I don't know, they may be polluted now with everything that's going on. I know throughout Idaho, there is a river, it's part of the river of no return up there that goes into a deep aquifer that just disappears under deep caverns. So yeah, everywhere, I think in the West, we have these major caverns. And certainly California does.
Yeah, that's what's so amazing to me insofar as they're not really tapping into the aquifers, but they're complaining about having a drought, and I'm thinking to myself, there's something not right with this whole thing. I know we have a lot of resources here in the United States alone, and that we really don't need to rely on other countries. I don't care what everybody says. And, it's like, why aren't we just taking, respecting the earth, but working with the earth in this country and making it a better country instead of letting it go to hell in a handbasket?
Right. And you think about the work that Dr. Emoto has done on water and how he's shown that when people come together and think positive thoughts, that they can change the crystals of water. So if we're doing that, and and just the opposite, if you think negative thoughts, you can the crystals that were produced were imperfect.
Yep.
So just think what we can do in mass.
Oh, absolutely.
Mass consciousness can change so much. We can do so much to heal this earth.
I totally agree that. Yeah.
We have to come together.
Absolutely.
Build the rainbow bridge.
Yeah, that's what I love. I love you work with the rainbow energy. It seems like you have rainbow visions too, and I love that. That's so nice.
I had a rainbow vision. That's why I'm really into rainbows, but I had an amazing vision, which I tell about in my book, Angels, Aliens, and Prophecy.
Nice.
Yeah, it was in LA, and it was just incredible. It lasted for a half an hour. My mother watched it with me. It was so strange to see 4 colors that kept dripping into each other. There was a kind of a cigar-shaped cloud behind it, and the purple, which was in the middle, kind of had like an eye opening to it. And they would drip down to each other, and then one by one they would become brilliant. And then after half an hour, that went on about 3 times, and then the blue turned brilliant. I mean, it was luminescent blue. It shot off to the east and vanished.
Oh, wow.
I said, no, that's not a sundog. That's not...
Amazing.
What did we just see? And I called UCLA at the time and talked to their meteorology department, and they said they've never heard of anything that lasted that long and did what we saw.
Wow.
So I don't know what it was, but it was pretty amazing.
Yeah. What year was that?
That was 1985, August 7th of 1985.
Oh, nice. Yeah, those are special moments when you see things like that.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, and you also do the psychic readings and astrology, is that correct?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
And so if people want to get a hold of you, they can certainly do that through your website.
Right. Absolutely.
Excellent. And your books are on Amazon.com.
Yes, they are. All of them.
Excellent.
Angels, Aliens, and Prophecy, and the Mystic Revelations of 13. And awesome. My new one is also on there. Okay. Communicating with the other side.
Lovely. Oh, I love it. Awesome. Yeah. It's wonderful, wonderful information tonight. I really appreciate it once again. It's just been a joy to have you on. And I hope to have you back soon. And I'll be tuning into your radio show. When is your radio show on?
It's usually on Wednesdays.
Okay.
At 5 o'clock. And that's Mountain Time.
Excellent. And that's what network?
It's on Blog Talk Radio /Rainbow Vision.
Excellent. And so what do you discuss?
I've covered just about everything. I've had poets on there. I try and stay to the paranormal, but I've had people suggest other people, best-selling authors. I've had people in UFOs, and of course, alien abductions. I had Mike Bear on my show about the investigations he's done on Mars and the moon and the structures that are on there. It's just been, I had Dr. Jose Arguelles, who did the harmonic convergence before he passed away. I've had shaman on there, spiritual leaders, Ed McGaw, Eagle Man.
Nice.
So, yeah, it's been a variety.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's awesome. And we're getting ready to wrap this up. Once again, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. I hope you enjoyed the show. And tune in next week when my special guest will be Stuart Swerdlow. He'll be on. And I want to make sure everybody stays tuned for the awesome duo and show, Shiny Side Out with David Dunger and Mickey, coming up next to sail you on into the night from down under. And that just about wraps everything up. We do have just a few more minutes left here. Is there anything you wanted to say real quick, Betsy? Anything that we didn't get to talk about?
I always like to tell people, human up. We can all do it. We can change the planet with our thoughts en masse, and we're the ones. We have the power. We've forgotten we do have that power. So human up, everybody, and blessings, everybody. And thank you so much, Solaris. It's been wonderful being on your show tonight.
Well, thank you, Betsy. It's been a joy to have you, too. And I'm really serious about getting together and doing some powwow work.
Let's do that.
I think we should. I really think it's time. Ceremony is huge. You really rang true to me when you started talking about that. So I really think we need to do it. And also, what is your next big trip on the globe? Are you planning on anything insofar as your research goes?
Well, like I said, I'm working on a book about Earth and just honoring Earth and all the things that I've gone through and learned through powwows and vision quests and sweat lodges and from the spiritual leaders that I have spent time with. So, yeah, it's going to be about honoring Earth and healing Earth.
Oh, nice. So that's almost like a book for someone who would like to do ceremony. Would there be some guidelines in there?
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent. And also perhaps healing involved too, because you are a healer, right?
Yes, I've done some healing with Reiki.
Nice. Yeah, I'm a Reiki master too.
Are you?
Teacher. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, I started getting into that back in the 90s. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Rashiba system. It's an Egyptian system of healing, but it's very nice. Yeah. Oh. It's very similar. I'll have to tell you about it sometime. You might be intrigued by that. It's it uses different symbols, but it's really goes way back to ancient Egyptian mystery school types.
I'd love to know more about that. Please.
Yeah, I will. I'll send you some stuff on that for sure. We'll get together and talk actually. And well, I think we're just maybe have a minute left here, but I don't know. Yeah, there it is. Okay, everybody. Well, thank you very much for listening. Have a great week.
Thank you.
And thank you again. It's been a pleasure, Betsy. I look forward to talking with you off air.
You too.
Bye, everybody.
Listening to Revolution Radio.